Right. Okay. I'd like to welcome everybody tonight to our community advisory panel meeting with our panel members who have helped us with this reform project that the state mandated that we do, and we found it to be very, very helpful to myself and our police chief, all the input that we had. Before we get started, what I'd like to do is just go around the room and introduce ourselves. Pretty much we're live streaming this, so people will probably see. So I am Chief Myers, the town supervisor, and you, Miss?
Sylvia Santiago, town councilperson.
I'm Sean Davis, I'm the assistant pastor of Colorado.
I'm Syria Bristol Perez, and building principal at Bell Facing Academy.
I am Neil Fernandez, I'm a Windsor resident.
I'm Romina Harris, I'm a Windsor resident.
Eric Harris, a Windsor resident.
Joel Valley, Windsor resident.
Good evening, James Hubbard, New Windsor resident.
I'm Sarah Ruback, I'm the assistant executive director of St. Christopher.
And Robert Dawes, police chief.
Okay, this is kind of the first time that we have been in person. We see each other on the screen, but I don't see so good, so I don't even see him on the screen. I know the voice, but I'm glad that we're all here and we're kind of able to meet. And on behalf of myself and the chief, we really appreciate those of you who have volunteered to help us with this project. And we were very pleasantly surprised when we got going and saw how the input was coming from our community. And like most people, we always think we're doing a great job and everything's fine. So I think sometimes when you get some other people to talk to you and they kind of get a little idea maybe that you haven't thought about, and sometimes we're able to kind of say why certain things happen. And maybe if you don't hear about why are we doing certain things. So this panel has helped us to clear the air on a lot of things. And one of the things that I did very quickly when we got involved with this is the body cam. It became clear to me that this is the way to go. It eliminates a lot of what happened. I always say it eliminates the he said, she said. It's right there, and everybody can see what went on, and the officers are aware of our regulations. It's put together some pretty tight regulations about it has to be on. I don't want to hear any nonsense that, oh, I forgot to turn it on. So they've been very good about it, and I think that they were very supportive of it too. And usually when you do something new with the police department, I've been in state police for 25 years, so I have a little bit of experience. Most cops, they don't like it. They don't know why they don't like it, but they don't like it. We didn't hear that with the body cam. Everybody kind of thought it was a good idea. I think the public and the police, I know the chief and I really thought it was a good idea. And we're very fortunate to have some of our community businesses step up with donations. So we really didn't spend taxpayer money. I think it was about $36,000 that we got this done, and people like myself and Sylvia wouldn't have to tax the taxpayers to get this done, although I think we would have done it, but we tried this route first, and we were able to kind of have people who thought it was a good idea and wanted to fund it. So we were very happy that they did that, and I'm always happy that we're taking some strain off the taxpayers. So I think the first thing that we want to talk about tonight is probably those body cams. And at this point, I'll turn it over to our chief, who is much more familiar with the goings on with that than I am.
Sure. So you all received the Dropbox with the videos. What we kind of focused these videos on for this panel discussion was when the officers encountered a weapon and what they do and how they react. And there was a video involving a hammer, there was a video involving a gun, and there was a video involving a knife. So I hope we sent them out in advance, so this way you could view them as many times as you want. If you wanted to show them to anybody in the community, you're more than welcome. Hopefully you took some time if you had any questions or concerns or any just general observations that you wanted to bring forward. So I guess the first one we'll talk about, we'll start out with the man with the gun. So if you recall, that started out kind of odd. So it was 2 a.m. on April 10th. There was a man on Walsh Road out by the New Windsor Firehouse, if you're familiar with there. There's a sidewalk there. The man was just spread eagle on the sidewalk. And it was April, so it was a little cool out. He had a jacket on. He's fully clothed, but just spread eagle on the ground. And people who drove by, there was 2 cars stopped, if you saw in the video. And they saw this man, and they were concerned about his welfare, and they called the police department. And the video starts when the police officer arrives. He activates his camera, and he gets out of the car. So from there, what you began to saw was basically a medical call initially, right? So the guy was unconscious. It appeared he was either overdosing or he was a diabetic. They really didn't know what was going on, as you saw, and he was really out of it, not really answering cognitively. He was spitting up and coughing and began to puke, as you saw as well. If you've noticed, and I hope you played it back a few times, you police officers are trained to watch people's hands because it's the hands that are dangerous. So if you watch that officer, and again, his mindset isn't always, oh, this is a medical call, I'm just going to try to help this person. He's also concerned about his safety. You have the motorist safety that are there, stop, that called it in with their children in the car. So there's a concern for safety as well. And you saw ambulance corps personnel start showing up too. So there's always that safety aspect. You saw the sergeant show up, which was good, and another police officer. So as you watch that video, if you were watching, especially if you played it back, I had to play it back. There was about 3 times where that gentleman was trying to go, even though he wasn't really fully cognizant, or at least it appeared so. We don't know if he was acting, but it appeared it was legitimate, not quite there. He was trying to kind of get his hands into his pockets quite a few times. And as the call went on, the officer made sure he saw his hands at all the times. And then that last time, he pulled his right hand out of his right pocket. And at that point, he said, sir, and we were trying to figure out, who is this? He couldn't tell us his name. We don't know where he came from. We don't know if he was hit by a car. We don't know what was going on. So the officer at that point began to say, let me check you for, if you have ID on you to maybe get next of kin, maybe someone could help us with his medical history, or at least we could tell him he's in the hospital. That's where he's going, right? So that's where it went. From there, the officer, that immediately that pocket that the person was reaching into, they pull out a gun, a semi-automatic pistol. So that kind of changed the dynamic a little bit, right? So they made sure that was safe. They took the pistol away from him. They secured it, and they put him in handcuffs because now they really don't know what. Or if he has other weapons on him, that's always a concern. They teach us in the police academy, if there's one weapon, there's another. And if there's 2, there's another. There's 3. You always have to keep checking. So with that, I think you saw the sergeant did a really good job taking him into custody, no concern. But with that, I don't think, and I'll leave that to your opinion. But what I want you to focus on, the way I'm trying to watch these videos back, not only as the police chief, but I also try to watch these videos back as somebody who's up to date with a lot of the current affairs going on. So if you watched how the officer handled that gentleman, even before he was in handcuffs and after when he was in handcuffs, and you think of the George Floyd incident when you have an officer kneeling on someone's neck, that gentleman was in and out, right? And he was under arrest. He was handcuffed just like this gentleman at that point. But I hope you realize, like, if you look at it with those kind of eyes, did the officer do a good job making sure that person, even though he was under arrest, that he was safe, and that he was still trying to help that gentleman? I thought Officer Vega, that's the one who was aiding the gentleman at the time, did a very good job of keeping him in the rescue position on his side. He actually the guy was spitting, puking, coughing up phlegm. I mean, it got to be pretty gross, as you guys saw. And it went on for about 15, 20 minutes. The officer had him up on his knee and made sure he was breathing, making sure there was nothing on his back, make there was no positional asphyxiation as they're trained in. So I thought he did an outstanding job when it came to that. So not only look at these as far as tactics, but look at it with the outside lens of what's going on, right? What is the problem with law enforcement now in the public eye, and how are we doing versus that, right? So I thought this was a great example of that, especially in that case. So we'll certainly open the floor up to any comments or questions you may have of how it was handled. Ultimately, the gentleman got transported to the hospital. He was admitted into the hospital. He made a recovery. We do believe he actually mentioned dust. He was dusted, angel dust, or, so he was very much out of it mentally. And again, we were there to help him. He couldn't even get his full name out, didn't know where he was, didn't know how he got there, didn't know pretty much anything. And that's what the officers are tasked with. Who is this guy? Where did he come from? How could I help him? And that's what they have. And you never know what you have. Here's a call, we're just trying to help the man, and now he's got an illegal gun on. So I'll open up the floor.
Go ahead.
I was watching the video. The main thing I caught from it was him trying to put his hand in his pocket a couple of times, and how calmly that officer pulled that pistol out of his out of his pocket and didn't overreact to anything. Again, we did see there was no magazine, there was nothing in the chamber, but regardless, that just shows the danger that they're always in. This is a medical call, wasn't fine. Yet the guy has this little pocket, and that could go anyway. This is a good example. He thinks that he handled it very well.
So it's a good point that the gun wasn't even functioning. But how many people do you know walk around with a gun? The cop would not know that this gun is not functioning. So, if it had went another way, then it would have been a law. But I'm just saying that I thought it was handled very well. The guy in the control room kept trying to make sure he's okay. I was kind of happy that two people stopped and called it in. This guy is laying spread eagle in front of the fire. And many people would drive by, trust me, and just drive by. A couple of people called and stayed. A couple of women stayed and make sure that, these guys showed up. But yeah, you're right. But if he's under the influence of something, he may go for that, right? And now all of a sudden the cop thinks he's got an 80 case, and some guy's sick, and he's looking at a gun. He doesn't know it's not going to work, right? But, yeah. So, and this is really like the middle of nowhere, right? Down on Walsh Avenue. It was dark out. I don't know. I don't know. What's that? 2 in the morning. Just things are quiet at 2 in the morning. But now you got this kind of guy. Yeah, I saw it today, first time, and I was very impressed the way they handled it. But I think that body cam is just great. And if it wasn't handled right, would have given him an opportunity to have a training session, right? Say, well, maybe we should have done this, we should have done that. So I think it works in a lot of ways, as long as, we're able to kind of say, okay, you made a mistake and this is what we're going to do. And it would be hard for an officer to say, oh, well, I really didn't do that. No, you. But in this case, we were very happy in commending him on the way he handled it. So that could have been a situation that really turned bad very quickly. One of the other ones, I guess you can talk about the girl with the knife. That was another one.
And we're all, how does everybody feel about the officer going in the gentleman's pocket? I think that deserves.
Yeah.
Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Does everybody feel that?
He was very respectful, and he was telling him what I'm doing. I'm going to go into your pocket. It wasn't a surprise. He was describing step by step what he was going to do. Although this person was a little bit incoherent, we can clearly see in the body cam that this officer is following protocol. Not keeping any information, withholding any information that would trigger somebody.
I always try to put myself in that situation. So if that was me and I was sick on the sidewalk and nobody knew where I came from or where I lived or who I was, do I think it would be okay for a public servant to go in my pocket and get my wallet out to try to figure out who I am and get me help and notify my family? I think I would be okay with that, absolutely. And then you got to take it a step further. So you have a police officer and he's in a situation such as that. He's also, if this gentleman's going in his pocket, he's also allowed by law to pat down for a weapon. Right? So to check that pocket, there's a bullet. It's hard. It could be we're not checking for like a little crack vial, right? We're checking for something big like a gun, a knife, something that could hurt somebody.
But it's still scary when you really think about it, because if you see somebody throwing up, and I don't want to judge nobody, but if you're thinking it's drugs, stick your hand there, it could have been a needle.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to prick yourself, so a lot of times, that's a dangerous situation too.
It happens once in a while. So the officers have special training on how to go about that so that doesn't happen. And we've had many times, even on camera, that if you have anything in your pocket, they'll give them 50 warnings, please. I don't want to get stuck by a needle. I'm not even going to arrest you for the needle. Just let me. And the person will lie, and the officer will come out with the needle. So you can ask, you can feel, you can touch, and you got to try to just do your best as a police officer. They get used to doing it. They get pretty good at doing it. So
I couldn't tell the first time I watched it if he was faking it or not.
mm-hmm.
That was my first reaction. I had to watch it a second time when I wasn't distracted and really sort of pay attention a little bit more. But I was surprised also right in the beginning when they stood him up and he just went like a devil,
Yeah.
So, I thought it was a terrific job by the officers that were there. It always amazes me when I see stuff like this, the difficulties that
we have to go through, that our officers have to go through in order to deal with this stuff and figure out, like you said, is it okay to go in pocket or isn't it okay? Under what circumstances will this be scrutinized later on in hindsight by different people and whatnot and so forth? So it's definitely a difficult, is it a medical situation or is it a criminal situation? No. But what you mentioned about angel dust too, it definitely reminds me of the videos they used to show us in junior high school about why not to do drugs.
Yeah.
You know, that's exactly right.
I mean, you saw him spread eagle, like, he was like ready to make a snow angel there, huh? So,
Sorry.
go ahead, Joe.
I have one follow-up question, Chief. How, the officer did an excellent job, in my opinion. How long, if you know, it varies, I would assume, for an officer to come down from this very stressful situation, especially when you see a gun? Is it taking 15 minutes, 20 minutes? How does he get back into a normal state after answering this call? Give us some idea.
I think it varies by officer and experience, first of all. I think with this call, certainly they were surprised to pull a firearm out of that gentleman's pocket.
Yeah.
Luckily, there was no wrestling match for the pistol or any type of shot going off, anything like that. So while I think they were kind of surprised to pull it out, I don't think it really got their adrenaline going too huge because the guy was quickly taken into custody and it was done. You know, they searched them and made sure that everybody was safe, and then they go about their business. And any call at any time can turn, like this was an aided call, it turned into a gun call, really. They could be checking an alarm, and then you have a burglar coming out the back window. But really, there's potential on any call. A traffic stop, a domestic. Really, think about the calls that the officers are going on at a moment's notice, you know. And, you know, and if it is a serious call, or even if it's a call where you're just involving like a death of a juvenile or something, or there could be a car accident, it could take weeks, it could take months for the officers. You know, they might need counseling. We're working on those kind of things here. A lot happens in New Windsor, as you guys are kind of seeing and learning. So it depends on the situation. But on that one, I think you saw they remained calm. They took him into custody. The other thing for you guys to know on this one too, that's a good point. The sergeant was right there, right? Did we see that in some of the videos that are in the press, in the media? Are the sergeants there? Is the lieutenant there? Is there a supervisor there? Supervisor right there. And they can't always be right there. But on this call, you'll see actually all three calls, believe it or not. I'm just realizing now there's a sergeant on each one of those calls, and that's huge.
Excuse me, is that because the sergeant was listening on the call? Okay, but wasn't a request for sergeant to immediately go out. Sergeant was listening to.
In this particular case, he was just driving in the area and wanted to go make sure the officers were okay. And he's just, you know, he's concerned too, like, what do we have here? Like, where does this gentleman come from? Do we have a party going on down the street that we need to be concerned about 20 people even like that? Like, that's the things we start asking ourselves as officers, like, where did this man come from? Because he's by the firehouse, like, he wasn't in the firehouse. Where did he come from? So is it a house there? Did he come from Newburgh? Did he come in from Cornwall and walk away? Like, we don't know. So those are the things we kind of look at.
In addition to what everyone else has already stated, you know, I agree with, and also the additional care after the fact, after, you know, the ambulance team and so forth, and his reaction to your point of you spitting up and everything before, and him coming to some sort of creating another reaction, and he was, you know, given care, carefully given care, even though, you know, he was obviously reacting to, you know, coming to, and then exactly, in the ambulance and the EMS as well.
And you saw, like, even though he had the pistol, he was handcuffed, he wasn't treated any differently, right? I think that's fair to say, and I think that's a testament to how we operate. I do. You know, so, all right, let's move on to the next one. We'll do the man with the hammer. So this is a really interesting one. This could very quickly, within a tenth of a second, or even sooner than that, or this could have been a deadly physical force scenario where the officer discharged his firearm. So we'll go into it with that. So on May 21st at about 1 a.m., we got a 911 call here that a man was hitting someone's car, was hitting the caller's car. And that's really all the facts that we had. We had no further information. And a lot of times when we're dealing with 911, that's what it is. We always like our calls to come into our headquarters where we can dig a little further, get some more information. sometimes the fact that these officers have when they're responding is very limited. And that's literally all the officer had on that call. It came in through 911. So the officer, as you saw in the video, the officer arrives, starts his body cam, and you could hear off in the distance a female's voice yelling, like, to come over here, or whatever actually was said. The officer begins to walk over. He didn't want to drive right up into the scene. He wanted to approach it safely on foot. So, and you see his car lights are still on, and he walks forward. He's got his flashlight, and another police car, at least one, is showing up at that point too, to add some more light, if you saw. And he's walking. So he's walking to try to find that female that's yelling and screaming. Presumably that's our caller, right? To find out what's going on, whose car is damaged, and what's going on. And then, as you saw, a shadow emerges literally out of nowhere between there was two parked cars with a taxi cab and then another, like, a dark colored SUV. A man emerges out of there, full sprint. Took me for a surprise. The officer's not even out on foot for more than probably 30 seconds, 20 seconds. And this man is full sprint, heading in the officer's immediate direction with what is ultimately a hammer over his head and a threatening manner sprinting towards the police officer. So as you saw in the video, what did the officer do? I think the officer acted pretty good. I think definitely for sure. The officer, number one, started to, and those of you that went to the training for the range, which we'll talk about in a little while, verbal commands immediately. He presented his firearm immediately, didn't have to stop and think about it. That gun was up and on target if it needed to be, and it was on target and ready to go. And what else did the officer do that he doesn't necessarily technically, legally, by law have to do? He started to back up to create distance. You got a man sprinting at you. Technically, he doesn't really have to do that, but as a police officer, civilian, yeah, but police officer does it. He tried to gain that extra distance by backing up. The verbal commands, fortunately, as this man was sprinting towards him, worked. The man dropped to the ground and said, "Oh my gosh, I didn't think it was you," or whatever he said, and dropped the hammer. Whether it had been another step, I don't know what the officer, where exactly he would have fired, but he's certainly legally allowed to defend himself. And we'll go around the room and talk about that. But luckily, fortunately, he got to, 10 feet, 12 feet, roughly, on camera from the officer when he dropped. And that man dropped immediately and quickly, thank God, right? Because whether he misidentified the officer as the guy he may have been fighting with before the police officer arrived or not, that officer is still allowed to defend himself, right? So the officer had good verbal commands. I thought, if you notice too, man drops to the ground. Who was there? One of our great sergeants, Sergeant Hollyfield, was there. Immediately took the man in under arrest, put him on his chest, handcuffed him behind his back, put him on his side, and began to talk to him. I think there was a little language barrier, but tried to get some information out of him. And there were still dynamic things going on. The sergeant was like, well, watch up there, because again, there could be 3 more people with hammers or a gun or knife. We don't know. We're just rolling up on this. We don't know if we have a big family disagreement. We have, who knows? So we took him into custody. I guess one of the good points to discuss as we go around the room, did we think the officer had time for a taser? Did we think the officer had time for OC? Would that even have been practical in this instance? And those are the things that you kind of have to put yourself in that officer's position. And what if he had fired the taser and either missed, or even if the taser did work, would that have been practical? Pepper spray, we could just certainly discuss those if you think those were options. And I don't think it's wrong to mention too, we had a homicide here in town in 2019 involving a hammer. So let's keep that in mind. So these police officers are very well versed about any crime like that going on. So certainly that's all in their head as well. You could be killed by a hammer. We know that. We know that all too well. So keep that in mind too. And just to summarize this, the man was ultimately charged with criminal possession of a weapon third because he had priors on his criminal history, which makes it a felony. He was charged with menacing, criminal mischief for damaging the car. He did smash out a window of the car before we had gotten there. And he was also charged with contempt of court because he was violating an order of protection by being on the property there as well. So we had multiple crimes happening before we even arrived, and then what happened as we arrived. So I'll open it up to the floor on what you thought and any feedback or
that it was the setting of this one was very disturbing because of all of the cars and the additional, or the bystanders, really. That's what struck me, is that you have this person charging at you. I think the officer responded the best way he could, and his verbal commands were very effective. I think if the person hadn't responded to that, maybe something else would have happened, maybe a taser or something like that, but he really did seem to contain that individual with his verbal commands. But going into the corridor, it was dark, you know, I was like, who else is out here? And it made me think, obviously outnumbered, but how can you effectively also help protect and direct other participants without further triggering them? I was like, someone else going to do something, and that as opposed to the first one with the man laying on the sidewalk, it was much more open, so you had more of a perspective to see anything else that could come. But in this one, it was very claustrophobic and locked in, and that felt much more menacing.
In dark.
Dark,
You know,
yeah,
that-
that was much more stressful to watch.
Nobody wants to walk through a dark corridor. I don't care who you are. You don't want to walk through a dark, we'll say corridor. It was a trailer park with also vehicles parked along. So it was basically like a corridor in an alley almost, the way it kind of was set up. And poor lighting. The officers carry very good bright flashlights, vehicle lighting they have. And if they do have to draw their firearm, which doesn't happen often. It's just we saw a video that it happened, but it doesn't happen often. If they do, just in the last year, we've had new equipment where the officers all have a flashlight on their pistol now too. Because when you have a flashlight and your pistol, it kind of gets awkward. And we would train how to do that. There's techniques to do it. But now they have better control of their pistols because there's lights on them that get activated, and they can still maintain their normal grip on it, just like they would during the daylight hours. So they're an asset too. So we just switched to those last year. So, and at instance like this, the most shootings we know as police officers happen in low light settings. So it's certainly an asset to have those flashlights on.
I made the conclusion that this man probably alive because of the training that this officer received. And I say that because of the situation, the darkness. I mean, seconds come out and this person, someone's running to you with a hammer and you don't know if it's a gun. You have to make these split-second decisions. And I think it's a credit to, correct me if I'm wrong, training that this officer has received. How long has the officer been on?
He has about 3 years on him, and he started here. He was trained here with the police academy and by our officers. Coincidentally, I think we spoke about this, those of us that went to the training session. We saw a very similar situation, which was a force-on-force situation or a scenario-based situation at the range. It didn't involve a hammer, it involved a knife. But this officer hadn't gone to the range session yet. But it just shows you, it kind of really sets home how the training on the range overlaps what's happening on the street and what could very easily happen. And while they were at the range, there's a 2-week range cycle. This happened on the second week of the range cycle. But he hadn't gone that first week yet. He was going later after this incident. He was scheduled to go. So I think that's kudos to our firearms guys that, in those situations that you saw on the range, some of them were situations where the officers had to actually take an action, whether it be with verbal commands, with their pistol, we taser, and then there was one where they didn't. Their verbal commands were so good that they didn't have to do anything, and that's all part of the de-escalation that we talked about, and it's really a testament to that. This situation, just the verbal commands alone, it wasn't really necessarily, I guess it was a de-escalation. It was a really quick de-escalation. The officer's presence, hopefully once that guy recognized that it was a police officer and not the guy he had been fighting with, that kind of woke him up, and then you got the muzzle of a firearm pointed at you, you got a police officer, you got other police officers arriving. Luckily, on that day, things went right, and he surrendered as he should have.
Yeah, I just want to point out, I watch a lot of training videos, and someone coming at you full sprint, 20 feet like that, is 0 time, you got a second. So if he didn't stop there, literally had another second, so it would have made life-changing decisions. The fact that he just dropped right there is incredible.
Yeah,
because that the officer held his composure. But it's moving lightning fast at that point. You don't have to. He did a really good job.
He did a good job. So back, they used to teach us what was called the 21-foot rule. And they would teach us where if someone had a knife on them, and they would do little drills like this on whether it be on the firearms range or wherever, with safe weapons and things, where if someone drew a knife and came at you right away, if they were within 21 feet, you didn't have time to draw your pistol, get those rounds off, and stop that person before they stabbed you. They don't really teach that 21-foot rule anymore. It's a concept almost like what you're saying, with the closing distance and things. And there's some principles that go along with that, and we tell our people that. So you can't go by the 21-foot rule. The fact that the officer backed up created a few extra feet. You always try to get something between you and the person. That'll help too, slow them down and things like that. That's what our officers are taught. But you're 100% right when you said, even if and remember too, just because it's not Hollywood, right? So even if the officer did fire off a round or two there, it doesn't mean that person's going down to the ground. That person is going to continue to probably fight if that was his intention. So that's always not a guarantee either. So another thing, just on the same topic, what we teach with that is the step off center. So when you're firing, you guys don't saw limited fire, actual live fire. You didn't see some, but a lot of times we'll be moving and firing because you don't want to just stand dead in front of your the person who's being threatening to you. You want to step off center, and it gives you another advantage. So the officer stepping back was huge. Years ago, they would just stand on a static range, fire into the paper, holster, and that was it. They never moved. And they realized, hey, we got to get these officers to move because they're getting killed. And that's absolutely. Still the yeah.
In agreement with everyone, and just to your first question, did the officer act appropriately? The fact that, we all acknowledge how quickly this happened, and just going back to the previous, scenario, you don't know what this guy was on, if he's on anything. So just, kudos to his training and for his reaction. And luckily that the gentleman stopped.
This was 1 a.m. I mean, generally that shift, that overnight shift from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., it's a good assumption that pretty much everybody they're dealing with is on something, right? That's kind of just how they operate. There is occasions where they'll go on a domestic and everybody's sober or something. I'm not saying that. And hopefully a lot of the people they're pulling over doing traffic stops are sober, we hope. But we have our share of DWIs too, as you guys know. But there's definitely a majority of the people on that shift that they're dealing with are on. So that certainly is fair. So they never know where this is going. Here's a man the police officer's arriving to take a report for a damaged window. And this is how we
It's like a
turned it.
video game.
Yeah.
I don't know what it looks like, to be honest with you.
There's a phenomenon that happens, I think, with these videos that I'm going to be very conscious to try to fight. That is that because we're watching the video camera from the officer's perspective, we have a tendency to be thinking what we're talking about here is really what the officer do. Do we agree that he did the right thing? Did he do the right thing? So I imagined when I was looking at this video, what would it be like if we had video from the perspective of the other person? And I think that's really a lot of what we're doing here, what we should be doing here, is thinking about, I can't say, what if I was that guy with the hammer, right? I mean, my circumstances are different, my life is different, my work is, all that kind of stuff. I could say, well, what would I feel like? The officer treated me that way, but I'm not that person. So I have to try to imagine myself as that person, the guy who was on whatever he was on, the guy with the hammer, the young lady with the knife, so forth. If I was in that situation, from that perspective, how do I think about what the officer did or didn't do or whatever? The officer could have done some things that could have provoked me, but he didn't do that. And I think it ends up the same, in my opinion about the officer's conduct in all three cases ends up the same, and I think they did the absolute best they could do, including the guy who was on whatever he was on. They kept trying to talk. They kept trying to ask, but they kept trying to ask him what his name was. They didn't get impatient with him. They didn't get mad at him. They didn't do any of that stuff. Same thing with the guy with the hammer. I'm on his side, started to engage and talk and so forth. And we'll talk about the young lady with the knife. It's the same thing. I mean, there was a lot of persistent, attempts at discussion and so forth and whatever. So I think even from that perspective of the person who's encountering the police, I can't see any complaint from what I see about that. But I think it's important for us to consider that perspective instead of this being a cheering squad for the police and how well they do. 'Cause we know they do well, but we want to know how the citizens.
Well, to that point, I think the guy, he was having a bad day. It was some kind of domestic, he's breaking windows. But as he was closing, he recognized right away, and he dropped.
Yep.
And so his intention was not bad toward the officer. He had been, I think, the girlfriend with somebody else. It was a whole kind of rigmarole. But the minute he saw, he just dropped. You could see, like, oh, whoa, oh no, I'm good. And, you know, then the sergeant comes into the picture and cuffs him up and they talk to him. Yeah, you're right. When I saw that, I said, this guy realized just about the right time. Oh, he's a cop. And he went down. And that was the answer. But I think Neil said it. That's closing very quickly. And I had saw this video once before, and I looked at it again today with the chief. And the comment I had to the chief was, it's pretty good, he backed up, gave himself a little bit. A lot of people would not have the presence of mind to do that, especially when I tell you. This cop knew, let me just back up a little bit. I mean, okay, I'll shoot the guy, he's gonna have him. He's not, I don't want to shoot anybody, you don't come to work thinking you're gonna shoot anybody. So he backed up, which gives more distance and more time for this guy to realize, oh, wait a minute, this is not the guy that I'm after. So I think that, you know, that was pretty clear, but sometimes you're right, what does the citizen say, you know? And we're interested in that too. But I was very happy with what they do. I said to the chief today, listen, I've been around this game long. Cops are just like everybody else. Some people in the police department who are like a little nervous. They little nervous. There's other guys that I would like to be in a foxhole. They're good. So that comes into play too. You know, you give somebody all the training in the world. If you happen to be a little person who's like gets a little worked up and stuff, and if you're the guy that doesn't get worked up, you know, which is the guy that people want to follow, and that's what we try to instill in the sergeants. When you get there, no matter what's happened, you've got to be calm. If they see you get rebel, then everybody. So I thought this, who was this? Yeah, he did a great job backing up. When I saw it the second time, I didn't see it the first time. Second time, I said, you know what? That's a good move. Gave the guy time to realize who he was. He could have thrown stuff on the ground. Oh, whoa. So, yeah, I think these are good training things. And like I say, the things we're looking at, they've been good. But we will look at things that they're not good. I'm not just going to say, oh, okay, I don't need to see it. I want to see it. And, you know, all the training in the world is good, so someone shoots at it, or punches in your mouth. How you doing? And that's what we want to see. You know, so far, so good. But with these cameras, you watch other departments and you see things. There was just one today. Some guy got fired someplace out west, and he's walking down a hallway with some guy, and he started punching. And for whatever, who knows? But if they fired him today, I think it was like Kansas City. So it works both ways. And I think we're trying to kind of like, okay, we want to know what happened. I want to see if there's something else that him and his administrative staff need to train him on. And we go to all kinds of training. He's always aggravating me with different training. I'm like, how much overtime can I spend here? But, you know, so he is very conscious of the training. And the training is good. You know, I mean, for me, it's okay to know there's also like a liability factor. Something happens. Well, what did you do? Oh, listen, we sent them to all of this training. So, yeah, I'm very happy with it. He is very, very conscious of training. Talk about it all the time. But I think it's appreciated.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. It's just sometimes he thinks that I have all the money in the world, but don't
And don't put out, you're helping out a lot because, I like to talk to my dad and mom. They're getting up there in age. They live in Queens. And sometimes I told them, like, when you learn things from the police department or just in life, the same thing applies to all of us in the room.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes somebody, you might be at a gas station, somebody asks you a question. You know, sometimes we drop our guard. You should always keep arm's length in case that person want to do something to you. So you can take from a lot of these videos for your own self.
Right.
You know, because we get, you know, look at that, some moms, you know, be careful. They're always struggling with their keys. I said, have your keys out already going in the house because they attack a lot of older people, you know, in the barrels. And I tell you, you got to be careful, you know. And her mother takes the city bus every time and, you know, tell her, Mom, you got to be careful with these young people. They don't, you know, care. And You know, you just, you know, when we come from areas, we respect our elders. We living in a time now, they don't care about that. So even all of us in the room, we gotta look out for ourselves too. You know, so that's why I like to watch these videos and look at it both ways, you know.
Yeah. Oh, they're interesting. We can find them.
Yeah.
Interesting to watch to see. But then my day was like, completely different. It was like night and day. You know what I mean? It was like much different. Today, these guys are really, really quick by the book. And the video is good for them. It's good for, out there, for everybody. I don't see any doubt.
And we did put these videos out just to our own staff. Because what's better, I roll call when they're starting their shift. Play that video. This happened to one of your partners last night. Watch it, like, learn something from this, and that's good for their brain. Because now if they get something similar, they see and know how to react, and they've kind of been there already and done this, so now. And they take it seriously because this happened in New Windsor. This wasn't in Ohio, like this was here. And it could happen anywhere, so so there's definitely value in us putting our own videos to our own staff. So we do that. The third and final video involved a young lady with a knife. So the call, okay, this is a Friday afternoon, right here on Union Avenue, the road we're on. It was on March 5th at about 2:30 in the afternoon, 2:30 in the afternoon. So you got a lot of traffic Friday. We each have shift change at 2 o'clock, so the officers, they were getting relieved and they're coming out. This call in particular, we got a call of a girl with a knife walking down the street. That was our call. So that kind of call is going to get a response. So coincidentally, the people that found this young lady walking was 2 sergeants who had just jumped in the same vehicle to run out on this call. So it does involve sergeants as well, just coincidentally. And you saw some other police officers in the video as well. So just to caveat this, it was a 16-year-old young lady that was walking down the street with a knife. As you saw, so I'll explain, we try to teach our officers to park away from the scenes or where it's, at least where it's tactically to their benefit. It's not always that easy, right? Because sometimes you just come upon something and you're there. And it's like a movie, dark. So that's kind of what happened here. The officers, they knew she was on Union Avenue somewhere. She was walking really quickly. They didn't know where. So they just happened to roll up on her, and that was the position they were in, right? She's walking down the shoulder, and they're right in front of her. If they had ridden up the block and turned around and came, she would have probably been gone, maybe, who knows, right? So they kind of dealt with what they're dealt in that situation. So they jump out, as you saw, and the one officer, Sergeant Sylvester, basically just tells her, hey, please calm down, drop the knife. And what happened? And then within the first 5 seconds of the video, and you probably have to play it back like 5 times, right? I know I did. She flips it. She flips the knife into the shoulder, into the grass, and she continues walking because she's angry. So that was another situation where, what if she didn't drop the knife? That's what I always ask myself, like, what happened if, and then the officers, fortunately, in that case, had a door between them. There was some play there that they could have hopefully gotten more time and distance, like the supervisor said, and talked her down to drop that knife, because obviously they didn't want to hurt her. The young lady they don't know what was wrong with her. She was highly upset. Ultimately, the backstory to this, she had gotten into, she was a foster child who got into like a domestic with her parents and got really, really mad, was not happy with her life, and she took a knife and decided to go for a walk. She probably didn't even know what she was doing. She was just so upset. She was out of there. I know me and Councilwoman Santiago, when this happened a couple days after, maybe even the next day, we were in my office and we really digested this video and really broke it down to such a level of what ifs and how they did. So that was really good. I'm glad she was interested and had a lot of questions about it, because it's really an interesting call. So this young lady is walking down the road. So she drops the knife, and so Sergeant Sylvester, just coincidentally, is our crisis intervention team coordinator. So hopefully he's probably the right guy to be on that call. I think all of my staff is the right guy or girl, but he was certainly the right guy on that date, because she dropped the knife and they began to walk with her. Now they began to walk with her down the street, and you saw in the beginning, she was walking with a full head of steam, right? She was moving. She was angry. She was mad. She didn't want to talk. She was crying. And she continued to walk. And this call, as you saw, was about 20 minutes. And it basically ended. So she's upset. The officers continue just to walk with her, made sure she was safe as could be off the side of the road. They stayed with her. They actually went and got a police car at one point to kind of slow traffic down. They positioned police cars up ahead, so if they had to grab her and make sure, take her out of traffic, let's say, or she decided to do something where she was gonna hurt herself, they had an avenue to put her in a police car. And ultimately, you saw after several minutes of her de-escalating with the officers, I noticed she began, over that 20 minutes, she was starting to lose steam and slow down walking. And you probably have some good thoughts with this, being that she's, you know, young and that's your specialty with the mental health. She kind of blew off a lot of that steam and anger, so much to a point where now the officers had a car position up ahead, and the video actually went on, but they literally opened the car door to the police car and she got right in without. Now, what would have happened if they would have forced her into the car right away? The fight would have been on. I can assure you of that. And sometimes, if safety prevails, sometimes you have to do that, right? Depending on the situation. If it's just absolutely not safe, if somebody's on a bridge, let's say, sometimes you have to grab them up and make sure they're safe for their own safety. In this instance, those two sergeants thought it would be best to let her walk. And at the end of the day, it worked out and they were right.
One of the sergeants made that call, or how did that?
They just like,
How did it happen to make that decision to let her go?
it's an impromptu. I think it comes with experience. I think if they would have went hands-on with her right away, and did they have to? So they have to make that decision. Do I have to take this girl into custody right now? They don't even really know what she did, other than she's walking down the street and she's upset with a knife. I mean, is that really a crime? No, probably not. We don't know. She didn't threaten anybody with a knife at that point or anything. People were calling because that's odd to see, right? And they're worried about her. But that's the decision that they make. So really quickly, these sergeants in this case have these things going through their head. All right, what do I have to do with her? Do I have to get her in the car right now? They decided, no, let's let her continue to walk until we can't let her walk. And then they just began to talk. And these guys are masters at talking and talking to people. And our girls as well. I say guys, and I mean guys and girls. But it's certainly, and that was the escalation at its finest for 20 minutes, I think. And physically, mentally, verbally, in all aspects. And it started here, right, with that knife, walking, angry, crying, hysterical, to her dropping the knife, calmly getting in the police car, and we got her assistant at the hospital. So another one where, you know, we could certainly break it down, but I wanted to point out that in the beginning, the officers aren't always in the best tactical position because we lost, right? It's just because sometimes you're dealt with what you dealt with, and it is kind of what it is. And it happens on calls when you're trying to find a house. Happens a lot. If you have something big going on in a house, they're told not to park in front of the house. You don't know what's going on. You don't want to park directly in front. People sometimes know you're coming, so they're told not. And or if it's a fire, they don't want to park right in front of the fire. Now you're blocking the fire. So they're trained with all these kinds of things. But sometimes you're driving by that house. Oh, that's the house. So you don't always have your pick. So I just wanted to kind of point that out on this call. They rolled right up on her because it was the situation and they really couldn't control it. So we'll open up the floor to any comments or questions or.
What a contrast, like professional handling of this young lady compared to other videos that we see where people are not given the opportunity to de-escalate and there are hands-on, and I don't know the situation, but it was comforting to see that these officers had the respect and the training to handle this the way in which everyone, including the public, remains safe, as well as the young lady, who obviously stressed that. The good result. Again, remarkable training. I think it does go back to training. So, thank you.
Let me ask you this. So how far did they walk?
They walked probably a good half mile.
Okay. So she's a little agitated. A lot of people looking. Pardon? Let's say she decides at some point in time running and gets hit by a car. Or somebody doesn't drive too good and kind of runs her over. What would we say about the cops? Why didn't you text them? Why didn't you let them know this is Union Avenue? Right? So we talked about that. And what it comes down to is, at that moment, what are you gonna do, right? You got some choices, and you could be severely criticized. You could, at some point, just bolt, and get hit by a FedEx truck. Now you're gonna say, hey, what, how, you guys were with us, what were you doing? No, you should have. So, there's always things that could happen, right? And you can have all the training in the world, but, okay, at this particular time, this was the right decision, everything worked out fine, but I had this conversation with Steve when I saw it. I'm like, what about that? So, sometimes you make a call, you're there, and that's the call, the best call you can make, and you make it. This turned out good, and everything was fine. Sometimes maybe it doesn't go so good. But that's why we have the sergeant. He has certainly said it 1,000 times. The most important person in any police department is the sergeant. Not the lieutenant, not the captain, not the major, not the chief, it's the sergeant. He or she is out there when it's happening, and they're making the call. They're saying, this is what we're gonna do. And we pay overtime to have a sergeant on every single shift. Okay, and I'm pretty tight with overtime, but I authorize overtime for a sergeant on every single shift. So I want somebody out there who's gonna respond and make the call. We had a meeting with everybody the other day, and I kind of drive that point home. You're there to make the call. Make the call. Show up. You hear something? I think you asked the question, how did they know? Well, they heard the call come out. Go there. I mean, if you're close enough, get over there, see what's going on. Because many times you can stop something before it gets out of hand. If you don't go, it's now gotten out of hand, and there's all kinds of reports to do. There's all kinds of criticism coming on. So he or she makes that call. At that minute, they made the call. We're going to walk her until she gets tired. And she just flopped in the car, and everything was good. But like I said, it could have went the other way, and people would say, hey, come on, man, you're not on the developers. So, there's always room for criticism, but that's why you have the sergeant and make the call. And if we told me the other day, your heart's in the right place, I'll be behind you. Your heart's in the right place, behind you. I'd like to say, I'm sorry. I'd like to say that when I spoke to my students and asked them what they wanted me to bring to the table, one of the top things was they wanted to feel like they had a chance, that the officer was going to give them a chance. And I think a lot of the things we do see in the media it's the opposite. It looks or feels like they didn't get a chance to explain themselves. They weren't given the benefit of the doubt. And I don't know, I can't speak for every police department. I'm privy to information for this one. And from what I'm seeing, it feels like people are given the benefit of the doubt. And that's valuable to a community when they see that. And so these videos are valuable to the community. So they know the officers are not trigger happy. They're not going into a situation looking to hurt somebody. At least here in the Windsor, I can say that. I can't speak for everybody, but it feels like here we have a great example of officers backing up, of officers not, reaching for their weapon the first time they see a teen with a gun who's frustrated and upset, or a knife. So knowing that the officers are not trying to cause a problem, they're not looking, they don't want one, and they want to give people the benefit of the doubt, I think it's extremely valuable to, especially you. So thank you. Good point. Very good.
So the question, this one thing may sound a little crazy to you, but what if the person that makes the call exaggerates the truth? And just saying he had a knife and it says he had a gun. Now, sometimes you get a bad rap when you show up on the scene because you're thinking the worst. And some people do make a call, it could be a domestic violence, whatever, and said he pull a gun on me, then you pull up there. That's why I think things get so out of hand, because you're saying that's a false or whatever, but you're only doing your job. You got a call. So you're thinking the worst. You're thinking it's a gun. You're not going to think it's a hammer or whatever. So sometimes I think, what can they do to a person that makes a false complaint like that?
So that happens. A lot of times things are exaggerated on occasion to get up there quicker, maybe. Sometimes there's limited information and it's inadvertently miscommunicated, or the person on the phone that's taking the call isn't asking the right question and not helping the police officer in the field. I'd like to think that doesn't happen here very often at all, but it does happen. So to answer your question, it's at our discretion, so the calls are recorded. So we could either give them a verbal warning if we know who it is. Sometimes we get anonymous calls and it's hard to track them sometimes. Sometimes it involves an investigation to even figure out. We have to get our detectives involved. But certainly if there's enough evidence and we think it's worthy, and like you're saying, it's a larger scale thing, there's crime, it's a crime. Mostly report incidents like such as that. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with swatting, where people are calling in like an active shooter full sleep at a location, or they're pulling like a big fighter that determines that like a celebrity's out. That's where kind of work being famous for me. So there's a there's a person with a gun or an active shooter incident at like some celebrity's home, and then all of a sudden like the Los Angeles SWAT team like shows up at the house. So that's kind of like a swatting example. So something like that, that's certainly going to get investigated, and we're going to take it seriously because you're tying up assets, resources. Our men and women are, and sometimes animals on fire too, are going through license siren. You know, that could be dangerous and it's completely unnecessary. So it's taken seriously, and they can be charged with crime. There has been occasions where we've charged them just like that. So there is consequences. Fortunately, you know, it doesn't happen often. There are some exaggerations, or maybe they didn't know all the facts when they called, but kind of roll with it. The officers, like I said, they'll ask the questions on the radio. Respond here for a domestic. Well, they'll be on the radio. Well, what's going? Is the husband wife? What's going on? Is there weapons involved? Is there an order of protection? Have we been there before? Those are all pertinent things that the officers are thinking on their way there, developing their game plan for when they get there. Because again, they don't know what's going on. And just because we were there for 4 verbal domestics in the past month doesn't mean that this one's going to be a verbal domestic. There could be a gun this time. So there's no guarantee. But they're like magnets for information. They want as much information, and a lot of times dispatchers or the caller on the line can't give it, but they're always trying to get it. And they're used to operating with limited. And that's why they go there and they're cautious, and they become the information gatherer. That's kind of how it works. Unfortunately, they don't know everything going in.
I think this point that the supervisor made is really important, is that in this case, Sergeant made the right decision, the girl. But no, you know, do it 10 times in a row, how many times do you make the right decision? Of course. But from the girl's perspective, I think it's the right decision too, because she was able to blow up that. Imagine how she would have felt if she did get tackled, if she did get, you know, whatever, right? Why wouldn't they just leave me alone? I can imagine that sort of scenario. That goes back here. So, yeah, I mean, I think how many times in a row do you make the right decision? How many times in a row is that decision the right decision? I mean, who could know? But it's less important that the officer or the sergeant makes that decision for themselves or for the department or for their record, you know, their drag about the it's most important that they make the right decision. This citizen this time, for that citizen that time, for that one. So they have to be able to adjust.
And I think the officers did have regard. You know, they kind of positioned themselves. It was her on the shoulder, then the officer or the sergeant, and then the traffic. So maybe they felt more comfortable with being able to intercede if she did. We all saw the video, so I think.
In addition to all the training that we talked about and so forth, mental health training is so important as well. What was her training on? What's anybody else's training on? The point that was thrown out or brought up earlier. You know, how are they perceiving this? You know, so we can come back. You know, we're having a healthy discussion here, but we don't know how someone else is going to interpret something. You know, with people that are on the spectrum, or we don't know what you're coming to. So, in addition to all the training, type the advocate for some type of mental training. But you know, when someone's not responsive to you in a way that you expect, try to understand without judgment. You know, for the best scenario possible.
I have a couple of trainings I'll mention here.
When I watched this, I was like, okay, now I'm in my wheelhouse. In fact, I had to listen to the girl's name of mine. But the officer officers in all videos, what I've noticed, and with the mental health aspect, the proximity, so even in the backing up with the hammer, the giving a little bit more space and time. And the officers really seem to follow like what to think, then what to say and what to do. They're very much reacting to what the young person is giving them. He was also walking in a straight line. He wasn't really doing anything kind of erratic, which changes up the response. And she got rid of her weapon pretty quickly. But the officer is very attuned to her, both of them, in terms of the proximity and the way that they're listening. And so that's really a testament to their ability.
And remember too, they're doing it while these are sergeants, so they're like ushering the other officers around and positioning cars and making sure, like, so they had a lot, not only were they doing this de-escalation and trying to calm her down and walking and making sure cars weren't hitting her, and they were also moving the troops around. That's what they do. So there's a lot going on.
It's a good response because they didn't try to force her to do anything, and like the venting, like if you don't give her any more fuel to be angry about or to change the target to herself, eventually she'll run out of steam, which is what happens. So it's like you've got a lot of patience. That's constantly being that dynamic situation of what if, and for that young person, he probably felt really good just to be able to walk and be heard. Maybe he's like, you can't say that about, all of the, as soon as the provocative statement is such a, like, an adolescent specifically in that state, it's looked up all over again. That she felt good.
And I think that plays forward. Should we deal with her again in the future?
Mhm.
Now, when she sees a police officer, wherever it may be, at her house, let's say, that it'll be paid forward that, hey, these police officers gave me a chance and it worked out right last time. Let me give them the benefit of the doubt that they're not just going to come here and arrest me or whatever they're going to do with it. So I think it's a two-way street. The respect goes both ways, I think, and I think that's a great example of, and I'm sure of it, that if we dealt with her again, whether it be similar circumstance or something, that hopefully she would have a little more knowledge and with dealing with police. Hopefully, at least the Windsor police were there to help you. We're not there just, so don't preconceive us to be that. No, perceive us to be what you know, what you saw and how you felt when we last dealt with. So, yeah, so hopefully that situation will be better in the future.
He wasn't charged, subsequently charged with it.
She wasn't charged with anything. She got a mental health evaluation and hopefully received the help that she needed from a doctor or any assistance that she needed.
The foster care, she was
a foster child.
Are they the ones that handle that after that point?
No, so she was brought to one of the local hospitals for mental health, which is the program.
Good with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next, we're going to move on. We're probably the first time we're announcing this, but we have been in the process for the last month or so, putting together a bicycle show. And the genesis of this was that I would see people all the time, and they say, I don't know any of the cops. I used to know everybody. I don't know anybody. They're all new. I'm like, yeah, you know what? You're right. So we try to encourage them. We drive by. You probably shouldn't try to engage them in conversation, but when you're in a police car, it's like a cocoon. And you drive, I'm looking at you, and maybe I wave, maybe I don't wave, I'm looking at you, maybe I wave. So we had a conversation, and I said, that's how we're going to get them to talk to people. People talk to them. So we have trained about 6 or 7 of these guys. One of our officers happens to be a certified state trainer on bicycles. So we have purchased what we're going to get. We have a couple of bikes coming in. There'll be regular pedals and electric kind of thing. So what the concept is going to be that I want them in the development. I want them to drive around the development, and the police cars will be saddled with something to put the bike on the back, a bike rack for the car. So the officer drives to the development. He's on the bike. He drives around, and maybe he stops to talk to you. Hey, how you doing? I'm so-and-so. And people they'll be a little easier to interact with people. And it would be good for the citizen, and it would be good for the department, because sometimes the citizens in the neighborhood know things. And if they don't know you, well, but if they know you, they might say, hey, the other night, you had this going on, I saw this red car over there, and I think it might be belong over there. So I think this bicycle patrol will be good for the citizens and good for our officers. And they're very excited about it. They're anxious to get out there, okay? And most of them are in pretty decent shape, and they want to get out there. And the reason we're getting the electric part is in case they get a call, they got to hustle back to the car, they can get back. But I think we've also purchased a couple of mountain bike types too. But I'm waiting to get, one of the lieutenants is running this for us, and I'm waiting to get I'm on a schedule. What development are you going to be in, when are you going to be there, right? So I think that people will be a little happy to see that, that you're going to see a cop and they're going to have the bicycle outfit on and the helmet and all of this stuff, but it'll be easier for them to talk to people and easier, I think, for people to talk to them, and we may even kind of come up with maybe some kind of card that you got to fill out and you meet somebody, say, so-and-so today, they live over here. But I think it's a great public relations thing for us, but I think it's good for the public to get to know somebody. That's same as everybody else that just happen to wear a uniform. They got a wife, they got a girlfriend, they got a car, kids, and bills, they got everything everybody else has. So this will I'll probably start doing something on Facebook right around right after the 4th of July. And once I get the schedule, then I'll know where they're going to be. And I think people will kind of think it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea. He thinks it's a good idea. And
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I didn't see any downside to it, and I was wondering when he put it out, what kind of response he would get. Like, I'm a timer at the bit, you want to be honest. So when we put the school together, we had some officers come from, Sheriff's Office,
Village of Goshen, City of Middletown.
and so we trained some other officers too. So these bikes will have sirens and lights and things like that, but I think it's more that they'll be able to talk to people. You know what I mean? Going down and people will be like, hey, when did you guys get bikes? When did this happen? So I think that it's going to be a very good PR move, and I think it may help us with solving crime at some point in time. Because people see more than you see. You're only driving down the street once. You live there. You see everything. I mean, I don't know anybody. Like, not my problem. Let somebody else figure it out. So you'll see that coming out pretty soon. I'm kind of like very anxious about it to get it out there. I think people will like it. They like it. Once again, like the body cam, they like the bike. I mean, some of these guys are like physical fitness enthusiasts, so hey, this is good. I'm getting paid. I'm going to drive around on a bike. Not today. Yeah, no, not today. I had to stop a couple of recreation guys the other day. They were digging a hole, and I said, no, stop. What do you mean, stop? It's not that important. Like 10 o'clock in the morning, 100 degrees. Let's go do something else. So you'll see that out there soon, and I think we'll probably talk about that at some point. We have a meeting, see what kind of feedback we'll get. I would be surprised if we don't get any feedback. I want to get feedback from them. I want to get feedback from the residents. But I heard over and over again, I don't know anybody. George, I don't know these guys. When the town got bigger, there's more people here, and there's people who have recently came here, and I think it's going to work out well for everybody.
I think you have a lot more personal interaction that way. They need a lot more.
That's what I'm looking for.
I think that's very good.
I want that, like, they'll be in Butterhill on this particular day, but this many hours.
Easier to speak to the people.
Yeah. Oh, let's keep an eye out.
Yeah, you'll see them, trust me, because I'll get the schedule, and I'll know where they are. And the chief is very much behind it too.
It's exciting.
Huh?
It's exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. Matter of fact, the lieutenant who's putting it together, I think he wanted to be on the patrol. Yeah, and he was pretty excited about himself. Now, you have to run it, you can't be right. So,
Be good to interact with the youth,
yeah.
You could roll into the park and talk to the kids.
Absolutely.
I'll be on it.
Yeah, no. So I just thought that we wanted to just tell you that this is coming. It's pretty much done. We're at the point where now I'm just waiting to push the button. I just want to figure it after the 4th and we get everything lined up. And we have bikes. We have borrowed 2 from Blooming Grove, but ours are on order. So we'll start with the Blooming Grove that we borrowed, and then once ours come in, then we'll get them back to Blooming, right? So keep an eye out for your neighborhood cop on a bike.
Should I hold off on posting this on Facebook until after the?
You can put it up. I'm gonna put it up in the next day or two. I think it's a good idea, then we get it out there and people see it. But we'll put it on their Facebook, I'll put it on my own Facebook, put it on town Facebook, and we'll get some feedback from people. You know, but I see in New York City, there's a lot of the bikes, but I'm seeing them mostly at demonstrations. They kind of use them as a field. We don't have that issue here. I just want them out and about. But you won't see them on Union Avenue, you won't see them on 9W. I'm specifically targeting the development. Right? Dugtown, Butterhill, Scootmaker Development, Countryside, you know, where people can see them.
You're gonna call it the bumper board?
The what?
Bumper board?
Listen, I sometimes they wreck their cars, I hope I don't wreck my bike. No, I think it's, yeah. So, yeah, if you wanted to put it up, then you know it's coming, that's fine, because I'll be putting it out soon. Okay, do you want to add anything to the bikes? I mean, you.
No, I'm excited about the bikes. I think it'll be a great thing, and I think you did everything.
Yeah, okay. All right, the next item on the agenda is the progress made on a collaborative plan since April 1st. So I think anybody who's followed us, we have taken it seriously. You know, and I'm not too sure that there's 500 police departments, I think, in this state. I'm not too sure everybody's taking it seriously. There's some people who haven't done it. I kind of read that not too long ago. So I think we are taking it very seriously. Like I said, we thought, well, good, everything's great. You know what I mean? But I think everybody who does a job, no matter what you do, you're thinking everything's great. So someone comes in and says, well, what about this? You know, and guys thinking about that. So we do look for input from you guys as to what we're doing. We share as much as we possibly can. I mean, sometimes we have investigations going on and we can't share with everybody, but, you know, the kind of routine police work interacting with I would call them our taxpayers. That's my job. I see my job is to protect those guys out there. I mean, I certainly have my employees in mind, but my main job is protecting the taxpayers. And I'm kind of think that this is doing it. You know, we're kind of getting out there, and if you have any problem with our police, we call it. I've often said, if you have good police forces, and you happen to have a very good one here, you don't need any civilian looking at anybody. These guys know the business. I know the business. I know exactly what you should have done. And you're not going to tell me that it should have been that way. It should be this way. You know, I think our people know that. And I'm not too sure that's the way it is in a lot of municipalities around here, because we talk to them. But we definitely hold people's feet to the fire. And I think that's very important, that they know that the chief is very interested in their day-to-day activities. We go over the police blotter every morning, what went on in town, who was having the message to, who had an accident, who's made a this one, you know, who broke into the park, who put graffiti on. So we are very interested, and I'm not shy about asking questions about what happened here, what happened there. And he's not shy about asking people. We want our lieutenants out there asking questions. So I think this was good for us, that we kind of got people from the community involved to kind of, and I think it also helps to get the message of why we do certain things, so why they do certain things. I keep including myself, and I've been gone so long that I could have retired twice of it. But why they do certain things. And sometimes when you hear it, you know, it makes sense. Boy, you tell me something, and I'm like, hey, you know what? They're right. You know, and then there's a discussion that goes on. And in police work, I've put this for a long time. I always say this is a circle. The police stay in the circle, and they do all their jobs. Guys like me, elected, don't go in that circle. You do that. You come outside the circle, and you do something you should have done, that's when guys like me should get involved. Okay? So I've always seen it like that, so I don't get into the circle. But when they come outside the circle, I want to know what's going on. So that's when I talk about politicians need to know their place. And that's, unfortunately, I hate the word, but that's what I am. I'm elected, I'm the politician, but I am also overseeing what's going on with everybody. We're very fortunate to have very good police chief here. He really, really is involved in what's going on. And it has not always been like that, I'll tell you that right now. But this police chief is very interested in his department, and takes his job very seriously, and has the best interest of his people and the residents. We can't answer anymore, but I think anytime we get together, get some interaction from people and hear what we're doing wrong, it's okay. And if we're doing everything good, I'm good with that, because that's what they're paid to do. They're paid to do a good job. If you're doing a good job, then it's good. If you're not doing a good job, then why? Why not? So for me, it's pretty cut and dry, and I've always had that problem. I'm a black and white guy. I never saw the gray. I just right or wrong, and I'm able. So I think it's good for us. I've never heard any pushback from our cops. Have you? They believe me. They watch this, see what's going on, and they know that we are behind it as long as everything is good. If you're doing a good job, then yeah, I'm definitely behind you. But if you're not, you worked in ShopRite, and the guy wasn't putting all the cans on the shelf when he should. He told him, hey, why is there's no Campbell's soup in our pot? What? That's what we do. It's just a different business. So I thought this was a good idea from the get-go. And the more we got into it, the more the chief is very, very, very involved in it. I obviously have a million other things I'm doing, but we talk about this all the time, and he takes it very much to heart. I think it's good for his people and good for our residents. So I don't know. We're going to keep going, and we follow up. A lot of times people will say, "Oh, we're going to do this," and then you put it on the shelf and you forget. I have a very, very strong on follow. Whether you like Rudy Giuliani, you don't like him and think he's crazy, he did a good job. He wrote a book once, and I read the book, and the only thing I got out of the book was, you got to follow up. Right? You tell somebody to do something, make sure they do. And that's what I think I try to do on a daily basis, and I know he does. Say we're going to do something, we're going to do it. We said we're going to do this, we're going to do it right, and we're doing it right. And I appreciate the chief's efforts in this, because like I said, I'm going in a million different directions. But he is always talking about committee, everybody to be involved. So, did you want to say anything about that? Other than you think I'm crazy, but don't.
No, I think we're going through the reform plan. As you know, there's nothing on there we're not working on. We have a few more things to get completed, but just know they're in the works, and we will get everything on that plan implemented. Some of it is something that, it's not like it's a finish line. It's some of that stuff on that plan continues, and it's going to continue to happen. So there's those type of objectives, and then there's the objectives where we have to meet, like having, for example, having a fearless employee, which is the agency that former safe homes follows on our domestic disputes. We have that employee here now. She's here 2 days. So that we can almost like check the box on our reform plan for that. It's implemented, it's done, but there is still a lot of stuff, like with getting you all involved in the training and input, and that's just one example of that. But there's those kind of markers too. So, but rest assured, we are working on everything, and we talk about it basically daily. So, I know you all, quite a few of you went out to the range with us and saw some training, saw some scenario-based training, saw some force training, saw some tactical training where there were some judgmental firearms with live fire you guys got to see. And you also got to see one of the situations was the officers had to drag, I think it was a 150-pound dummy, for lack of a better word, that we borrowed from the fire department. They had to drag it about 50 feet and then apply a tourniquet onto the dummy, and they were timed, and they had to do it quickly. So getting back to my other point, they're not just going out there and shooting at paper. They're doing a lot of stuff that's practical in the field, such as a tourniquet application, right? If you don't practice it, you're not going to be good at it. And that's not something you want to learn on the fly. You need to know what you're doing with a tourniquet, because you're going to save somebody's life. So, and that not only applies to an officer, but that also applies to civilians, because we've applied multiple to civilians, whether it be a car accident, an attempted suicide, we've had, and things like that. So the officers are and they all carry a tourniquet on them. So that's just something you happen to have at the range. And as you guys know, and as we spoke about when we were at the range, we were deeply into at least the first or second week, and nothing was changed for you guys other than maybe the order, so you could see more in the 2 hours that you were out there. The officers were out there for 6, so we wanted you to see, guys kind of condensed it so you could see a lot of the stuff. So they rearranged the day for you all, but nothing was changing. That's literally what they're doing out there. And I know there was a lot of good feedback out at the range on that day, and I really appreciate that. On behalf of the police officers that are out there, they really enjoyed having you all out there. Because that could be something where some officers could say, oh, why are they coming? We don't want them to come. This is our thing. You know, who are they? You saw the reception. They loved having you out there. Not only was it enjoyable, but it was worthwhile because they learned, and I think everybody on the panel that was there learned. So I thought it was very beneficial. We'll be doing more of that in the future, and we'll be including you all. So I don't know if anybody had any thoughts that they wanted to add quickly on that.
It's wrong about one thing. Sure. A couple of officers, they dragged it. One officer picked up the police car and the body. We was laughing about that. It got kind of strong there. So.
We have some police officers that are very strong. They move that 50-pound dummy like a feather. Pretty
It was
impressive.
pretty warm that day too, so just to see, how quickly they were responding. I was, impressed by how seriously, the whole event was. They were really taking this training, although we were just there, very, very seriously, just practicing, giving feedback. I'm a teacher, so, you know, I'm listening to feedback. It's big for me, but just the immediate feedback that they were getting, so that they can be better. Their job was just outstanding, just to see the level of seriousness and, just how thorough all of the exercises that we go over.
And they train how they are in the street. So if they train lackadaisical, they're going to be lackadaisical in the street. So as you saw just coincidentally, for our quarterly meeting, we had 3 very serious videos. They can't act lackadaisical in any point. So they train serious. So that's a good point for you to realize. They train like they are in the street. There's no fooling around. It's all business. And when the time comes, they're going to be called upon to save lives. And it's not a joking matter. It's not something that they take lightly. So, yeah, absolutely. And that's the way it is out there. And not to say they don't take a break and have some laughs, right? They do. They absolutely do. But when it's game time and they're training, or when they're in the classroom even, it's serious. All right, so we'll certainly have more of that, you know, in the future. So, yeah, so we're getting a little late in the meeting, but, so I gave you all some paperwork here. I just basically wanted you to see the training log so far for 2021. And that log is completed by our lieutenant. He logs basically every class, every training session, everything that we've done. I thought we're here, so we're at the end of June, right? So, but the hours have only been tallied up through the end of May, right? Because June's not actually completed. So at the end of May, we've already done 1,699 hours of training. 1,699 hours of training. That goes for everybody. And we do have one officer in K-9 school, which is a lot of hours, right? They go for training for like a month. He actually graduates Friday, by the way. I'll mention that in an email to you guys later on. So 1,700 hours of training we put on already, not even halfway through the year. If you're interested in seeing, you'll see some pretty interesting training on that log. So that's for you to keep if you want. I just wanted to highlight a few different training things. I think Santiago will be interested in these for sure. There's about 4 here I want to highlight. So procedural justice 3, implicit bias, train the trainer. We sent, and you had to go to procedural justice 1 and 2 to even be considered to go to this. So we had one of our persons was away, but we had one of our officers go to that training, which is a very highly regarded training. And not only did he receive the training, now he's a trainer that can bring it back to the police department and train our people. So that's outstanding. And that gets into, I kind of highlighted it here on the paperwork for you about implicit bias. So we did our implicit bias training, as you know. We put it out on social media. We had people from the state of Florida, the biggest teacher of that subject matter, came here and actually taught us. It was expensive. But we did, but this is a different one. I'm always all about, okay, we did that. What about like another year later or another year later? Here's something that this training was free, and now our person is certified as an instructor. So I think that's good, and that's going to pay for itself down the line with us being able to train our own. The second one that's come up, and actually myself and Officer Pierce couldn't be here, he's on bereavement today, but there's something very good that we're going to be attending as part of the panel. It's a 2021 Full Race and Justice Finding Fair and Impartial Policing Conference. It's a 3-day conference, and we're looking forward to that. That's being held Westchester County. And you'll see the summary there of that as well. So that's training. So this training is out there, but you really have to kind of dig and find it, and we're digging and finding it because it's not something that's common. So we're looking. So we're doing our best at finding it. Something to kind of go back on what you touched about, Councilwoman, was the awareness training for Train the Trainer for law enforcement disability awareness. So this training, and I was shocked, it was 5 days. The officers went for 5 days to be able to instruct on this back here at our, and this is, I'm all about, if you want to go to training, but bring it back and let's all learn from it. Don't just keep it, we've had people in the past that have just kept that knowledge to themselves. That benefits nobody. So this is something that's a train the trainer. I thought this was outstanding because we're often put in positions, whether with people with disabilities, you may recognize it, you may not. How are you acting with that? Are you actually making the situation worse? Are you helping? You've been called there to help, but are you? You may not even know you're not helping. So that training is outlined here. I'm not going to read it to you, but you'll see. And that's an outstanding training. That's already been completed by the officer. So I'm looking forward to learning some things from that. And couple of things here, I saw an individual with a disability is 7 times more likely to become a victim of a crime. That's part of that training. I thought that was kind of a scary statistic. Studies show that 50% to 80% of an officer's encounters are with an individual with a disability. So they're oftentimes dealing with people, you don't always realize it, right? It's not always obvious, but our intentions are to help. And a lot of times it's just that knowledge, getting that knowledge to be able to deal with that person more effectively. So we're really proud of that one. Another one that popped up through the county is the youth mental health first aid training. You'll see that's almost like a CIT training, and I know, Councilwoman, you were hot on this a couple months ago because you had heard through your sources that this was an outstanding training, the first aid training for youth. So, and this deals with primarily from 12 to 18-year-olds. So we're going to send just a couple guys to this, but I know Dr. Bruback from St. Christopher's is going to be teaching our whole staff in September. So they're all going to get it. We're going to send a few here because it's free as well, just to get some extra knowledge on it and get it going even quicker. We have a lot of people out on vacation. That's why I asked you for September.
Oh, yeah, no
So
problem.
by then, everybody will be back and we'll get everybody trained up, including myself. We're looking forward to that. And that is a highly regarded training. We were going to do it with St. Christopher's, with your predecessor, but it just never worked out. So we're glad you're here and we're glad you're going to help us with that.
Yeah, will that be?
So you have 8. It can be over 2 days, and people do it in one.
And then the thing with that too, so you could be, and that's for various people, it's not just for police officers. It outlines who could, like the teachers and things. Even if you're interested in jumping in the class, by all means. Absolutely, yeah, we'll get you everything. So our officers have a pretty good knowledge base going in, so they may not need that full 8 hours. So we'll figure it out the way it benefits everybody the best. And then another thing came out from the state. They often update the training curriculum statewide. I was pretty impressed with what they did recently. One of the things they came out with is recognizing the cannabis impaired motorists, right? Because it's certainly a problem already, but now it's going to be, I believe, multiplying. So to have now an actual class designated towards that's 7.5 hours in service for our people, we're going to be all over that. And that supplements the training that they already have, DWI-wise. There's a class called A-RIDE, which is an advanced DWI type of a school that most of our officers also have. But this is another training, and because that's going to be something moving forward that they're gonna need to really be on top of. Because that's one thing we certainly, and we talk about it frequently, impaired drivers in the town are definitely a top priority for our people here. And we're fortunate to have 2 DREs in the department. There's only 7 in the county. We have 2 of them. And they get called out frequently to other jurisdictions to help with their drug impaired drivers when they have one under arrest. Our people go out and do their thing with that. So this is another step, and I thought that was great that the state came out with, and they also put out a disc. So we talked about the de-escalation training during the first set of meetings that we had, and there was really never a training that was de-escalation training. It was always something we just incorporated in everything we do, basically. But now they're actually such a hot topic, and with everything going on and all the meetings that happened across the state, DCJS actually now have come out with de-escalation training. Who would have thought, right? So it's a 40-minute video that the officers can watch and get a lot of the basic principles and philosophy behind it. But again, it's something we do in everything we do, as you guys already know. But it was good they came out with something they could log on, they get credit hours, they get a certificate from the state, and it's something it's not a one-time thing. Okay. So the state police actually put out a very good video where they did some scenarios, they did some training, and it's an hour-long video that they made for their own people, but they were gracious enough to now put it out for other police departments. They actually allowed us to have a copy of it and watch it. So all of our people have already done that, including myself. They've received that training. So rather than just watching the same video every year, that gets boring and they kind of tune it out. Now we have another asset here of being able to bring that forward to them to hopefully be up on a couple different things that they might understand and learn from. So I think you're going to see more stuff like that coming forward, because that's certainly a good resource. But the state put together this video, which I have not watched yet, so I can't comment on it, but I'm sure it's there, because they usually do a pretty good job. And those were the things that I wanted to highlight as far as the training goes. Keyboard to be heard all the time, right?
He knows that I should have bet. I know I should have bet, but I'm not. No, that's okay. Good.
So, thank you for being here tonight.
The award ceremony, you all were invited to the award ceremony. I appreciate the support of you guys being there. The officers certainly saw that you were there and acknowledged it as well. So I thank you for that support. That was for 2 years worth of awards. So we're looking forward to next year's award ceremony. It'll be for 1 year. It'll be a little shorter, but certainly very good. I thought it came off really good at the park. That was the first time we did it outside. I thought it worked out very well. And every year we're going to make it even nicer and better. That's how we operate here. So look forward to that next year. You're certainly all invited to that. That was May 12th. And we do want to get a little more public notice on that. So it's usually smallly attended because we have it in the courtroom typically. And that only holds so many people, and the time you get the officers in there, the families, and everybody else that goes. There's not enough room to have the public. But now that it's outside, why not? So we're looking at that. So I just want you guys to know that. We started an Instagram account. I'm really excited about this. I think the staff of the police department knows that. They are working very hard for me to help contribute this. This is not something I could do by myself. I made that clear. We had a supervisors meeting with the sergeants, lieutenants, deputy chiefs. We talked about it. We discussed it. So we just started it about a week ago. We're up to about 200 followers already. I want to get that up to at least maybe 5,000 or more followers on that. And that's going to be all the stuff that we're putting on Facebook, of course, and stuff we're doing on press releases. But it's also going to be more than that. So there's already stuff on there, like an accident that happened the other morning. We had it up within an hour or two. It was like an interesting, we're not going to put every accident up, but we'll put up like the interesting kind of stuff, or stuff that we think that our community can learn from. Oh, look what happened with this guy. I got to make sure when I'm there, I got to be careful. We're going to highlight some of our officers. We're going to highlight some of the training that we do. So we're going to put pictures from the bike unit training on there, maybe a video of it. So there's going to be a lot of exciting things on Instagram. So I'm really excited about it. It's like my little pet right now. And it's going to be successful. I'm positive of it. And
No matter what.
No matter what. So,
357 accounts themselves.
yeah, exactly. So we're working on that. So stay tuned for that. If you have Instagram, certainly, or you want to create an account, it'd certainly be beneficial. There'll be some really, I think there's no better way, I don't think, other than our panel here, to get the community aware of what we're doing. Like, whether it just be, like, one of the simple things we put up was me going to a change of command ceremony at the Marine base over here. Like, something that the community would never know if we had any part of or did anything with, or that we participated in the Washingtonville graduation parade, where they had like hundreds of cars lined up that are all decorated for the seniors. Like, we had a police motorcycle and a police car involved in that. Something, unless your kid was graduating from Washingtonville, you probably wouldn't have realized we participated. So we're just trying to spread the word, like, as eye-opening maybe as it was for you guys as a panel of what we do as an agency, we want to have that spread out into the community as well. I think Instagram is really a good means to do that. And not only that, I think Instagram engages a younger demographic. So, and that's what I'm looking forward to. The teens, the early 20s, 30s, you know. I didn't have one. I made myself one. So I know. But, so that's what we're looking for. That's the goal there. So, and that's kind of goes back to our reform plan as well, getting the word out. So that's part of that. But I wanted you guys all to be aware of that. It's NWPD NY. So New Windsor Police Department NY. So NWPD NY. 201. All right, there you go. We're growing in a week. So good. All right. So that's that. We put bumper stickers on the cars. Like we're going all out. The IDA case, you might have saw in the press, there was a countywide press release that was put out involving the New York State Comptroller's Office, the Orange County District Attorney's Office, and the New Windsor Police Department in regards to the Industrial Development Agency, which the main headquarters was here at the airport. They also had an accelerator building out there as well. So that's how we got involved in it. We were the first ones involved in it. Our Detective Sergeant Chris Sager did an outstanding job on the investigation. He started it, he spearheaded it, and it grew from there. As you can imagine, it was a huge case. One of our panel members, Stu Rosenwasser, was very heavily involved in the investigation for the district attorney. And he commented that there was more than 10,000 documents that had to be examined and re-examined to kind of put them into the puzzle and figure it out. So if you watched the press conference or if you saw the press release, we're very proud of what Chris Sager did here. And as an agency, it kind of shows that really we can handle a lot here, from the biggest type of investigation to the barking dog or the traffic accident. We have the talent here in this police department to do it, so we're very lucky. So I think that a minute, Robert.
That IDA case, which was publicized not too long ago in a big press conference, there would not have been an IDA case. It was not for the New Windsor Police Department, and specifically Detective Sergeant Chris Sager. Nobody was doing it. I don't care what the press conference said, what anybody's saying. He was the guy. They got to go. He was the guy that called the state controller's office, get the ball rolling. And that IDA was off the rails for many, many years. And a lot of people knew it. I knew it, and I refused to even meet with them. When I first went to office last year, they wanted me. I said, no, there's been no meeting. Because the politicians knew about it. And you probably from time to time hear that the politicians don't like me. I don't like them either. Because of things like that. Everybody knew it was bad. Just kept going on, and was a ripoff. And people were kind of taking money that they had no business doing. They were double dipping. It was just insane. And if it wasn't for the New Windsor Police Department, it would have never, ever got to where it got to. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, we kind of were involved in that for a long time. And Sager really, really put his heart and soul into it. And then when he got the ball rolling, then other people say, oh, we better get involved here. You know, we need to get our name attached to this. But that's what I said. Some of the investigations that we do, we don't tend to put out there. You know, we don't. And I'm not at all involved in it. And I know they're doing it, but they did it. If it wasn't for them, these people would not have been brought to task. And maybe there should have been more brought to task. But it is what it is, and I always say, if you arrest somebody and whatever the court's doing, don't worry about it. You did your job, and good luck. But I mean, I really just wanted to drive home that IDA case was made because of this police department. And listen, this is a very professional police department, right? And in my mind, there are some very professional police departments around. No one is better than this police department. You know, we excel by everything. Anything that they do, other departments in the area tried to find out, what did you do? Which I think is a great idea. I never saw a good idea that I didn't mind stealing. So these other police departments come to these guys, because they know that they are on top of their game. And, I think the people in town don't realize how lucky they are, and how professional this department is. If you will see what the goings on in some of the other police departments around here, you would be absolutely startled. If you would see what some of the other politicians talk and do, you would also be startled. So we're very fortunate to have the group that we have here in New Windsor, in particular this guy and his police department. So I just didn't want to run over that IDA case. It was like everybody's up there, like, getting a picture taken, telling you what happened. If it wasn't for this guy out here, there'd be no case. All right. Just making more friends with my political friends.
And the final thing that I have, before we open it up to anybody else, is I think you might have saw too, we were reaccredited recently. Credit to the whole entire department, a credit to our Lieutenant Dan Valeri, who was our accreditation manager, made sure everything was in order for when the auditors came, did their inspections and talked with, I forget how many interviews they did. It was something like 100 interviews. They talked to officers about various things. They talked with me. They actually talked with the town supervisor. They talked with everybody. They interviewed to make sure not only was our paperwork in order, that we're actually following our policies like we're supposed to be, but they actually go verify with our staff. You know, you could put a bunch of paperwork together and maybe wing your way through it. But when you start asking people questions about policies and do you follow that policy, do you use that form? When was the last time you did that? You're going to get revealed if you're not doing things right. So we're reaccredited for it's a 5-year term. We've been accredited since 1996. We're proud of that, and we're going to keep it going. But it was, by all accounts, especially that of the people, especially the gentleman that came here and did the audit, compliance audit on scene, they were very, very happy with everything that they found. There is actually a report I could show you guys too as well. But we were very proud of that. So we're good for 5 years, and we'll continue to do as we're doing and make those improvements with our policies and things that we see fit, as you all see fit, and go from there. So we're happy about that, and I wanted you guys to know that. That was very important. That was on our plate for quite a while, getting ready for it. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of work for the lieutenant. It's almost a full-time job for him, making sure everything's in order and having proof of everything and making sure things are done right and officers are doing things the way they're supposed to be doing. So I just wanted to put that out there to you.
Listen, just thank everybody for coming, and I appreciate you participating with us and kind of getting a little knowledge about what goes on in here. There's a lot of stuff that goes on here that people don't know that goes on. And I appreciate you bringing something to the table. And, thanks for coming, and I just want to say one more thank you to my favorite person in the IT department. It never ever causes me a problem. One of the few employees that can't help that.